Happy Halloween, horror fans. My name's Adam.
And I'm Zoe, and here's what to watch this Halloween.
We thought we'd put together a special video for Halloween. Everybody's looking for something scary to watch, of course,
Absolutely.
this time of year.
And we've got a pretty good list together, I reckon.
Yeah, we've put together a few different, and we're going to have our own picks, go through a few different genres for you guys. And we're going to start the list off with a classic horror movie to watch.
Something classic, which I feel like a lot of people tend to do when Halloween comes around. They either have that brief franchise or movie that they seem to stick onto and hold onto every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get us started, what have you got? Top
I'll
pick
kick
for
us
a
off.
classic horror film.
Obviously, there was the obvious option of Halloween. I decided to stay away from that option, and I went with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre is obviously one of the all-time
classics.
movies.
I think that it is probably has the potential to be one of the scariest films ever made.
Yes, I agree with that.
In a different way, I wouldn't say that if I sat down and watched it now, it would be necessarily terrifying. It's just for the time when it came out and the way that it holds up now, amazing.
Yeah,
I definitely recommend it.
It still feels pretty realistic in a way.
Very realistic.
It's quite violent.
It's extremely violent, especially for that time period. I think it's a great pick, and I think it still holds up so well. And if you're going to go a classic film, I think that that is one of the top that you would go for.
Absolutely, and Zoe's given my pick away already. It is Halloween, 1978.
It's a safe choice.
It's a safe choice, but how can you not pick a classic? It's named after the actual time of year, Halloween.
On Halloween.
How can you not watch Halloween on Halloween? And we're talking about one of the most, if not the most successful independent films ever made. Mm-hmm. It started off the slasher genre, it totally ignited the slasher genre. So many films only exist due to Halloween existing. It's an easy choice for me.
I think it's safe to say probably Halloween is one of our second favorite horror franchises ever.
Yes, you guys have no idea what's to come in terms of Halloween content.
Yes.
We cannot be understating how much we're going to be talking about Halloween in the future.
We love it.
Moving right along, what have we got next?
Next up, we have our scary category.
If you're looking for something scary to watch this Halloween.
My obvious pick for scary was Deadstream.
Deadstream was a really great movie.
It doesn't get spoken about enough.
It's a smaller film. It's one of the smaller films that came out, I think, in the last year. It's still pretty new.
Yeah, 2022, I believe.
So hasn't been around forever. It is. If you haven't seen Deadstream, you are missing out. We love this one.
Super, super low budget. The film itself, for at least the first 45 minutes, is done so well.
Yeah.
You are sitting there on the edge of your seat the whole time. All I can say is turn the lights off, watch it loud. And you will probably be pretty scared, I would say, because I was.
Yes, we're not going to give anything away, of course, but go and watch it if you haven't seen it. I'm sure most of you haven't seen Deadstream. It was a smaller release. Mm-hmm. We went in without any expectations, and yes, we watched it in the dark, nice and loud, and we loved it. Mm-hmm. I will say, like you mentioned, it's sort of like the first half's probably the strong part, because after a while, the scare, I guess, the fear factor of it sort of maybe dies off a little bit.
Tie it down a bit.
But
in saying that, it's still great.
It's a good one to watch with your friends, because you'll watch them jump a bit, I reckon. Even Zoe was jumping in this one.
Yes,
so
absolutely. I don't jump in anything.
That's right. That's still got you.
Yeah.
For myself, I think it's always hard to pick a scary movie, and I went with something also pretty recent, which we saw this year, which was Boogeyman.
Yeah.
And I thought, again, the darkness used in this film and the way it sort of played out, you sort of, I guess, the fear of the unknown, I suppose. For me, it worked really well. I thought the film worked overly well with all those dark scenes, but it also kind of like, I guess, Deadstream. As time goes on and you get to see the monster, let's say, it sort of takes that fear away a little bit.
Absolutely.
But up until then, amazing. You really are getting... I mean, there's nothing... Especially you're growing up in a dark room, you just remember those nights when you're all alone. It really plays on those fears.
Absolutely.
So for me, I actually thought it was way better than it was going to be.
I enjoyed the film, and I definitely thought it was better than it had any right to be.
Yeah,
I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. But you are right, very much like Deadstream, it does start to lose its fear factor about halfway through. In saying that, I think that they're both really good films, and they do have really scary moments. So.
Yes.
Yep.
And a great category up next, we're going to talk about our top picks for the 2023 releases. In terms of 2023, what did you pick?
I wonder what it could be, honestly. For 2023, I picked Saw 10. If you're watching our channel and you haven't seen it yet, just go and watch it.
It wouldn't be fair if we didn't mention Saw 10 in one of these categories.
Absolutely.
Great film to watch this Halloween.
Worth the watch. You only need to have seen the first Saw film for it to make sense. Just go and do it. Get it done. It is phenomenal.
Yes, and but if you have watched this before, which I guess 99% of you guys have, you probably expected us to mention this one.
Yep.
For my pick, I'm going to go with the slightly polarizing Talk to Me, which came out this year as well.
I
and we
don't
loved
think it's
it.
polarizing at all.
It
I
is.
think
No,
it's a
it
great
is.
film.
It's a great film. It's obviously been reviewed phenomenally well. Also, just like kind of like the Saw franchise was started off, Talk to Me was also made by a couple of Australians. Very proud. It's this one is more of an Australian movie. Like it has the Australian vibe, shot in Australia, Australian people in it, so it's certainly more Australian themed. But overall, a phenomenal movie. We have
very great moments.
I honestly loved this film start to finish.
Yeah.
For me, it was one of the best films I've seen all year and one of the greatest horror movies. I would say polarizing because there are definitely some people out there who've seen it like overhyped or whatever. But honestly, most people are loving this film. I think some people have gone into the cinema expecting something slightly different, maybe more scarier, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, because scary is different for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you come out of the cinema and you go, this film is terrifying, don't watch it, you'll be frightened, you'll be like, won't be able to sleep. That is going to diminish the film if someone goes and sees it and doesn't find it scary.
Yeah.
Instantly, they're like, oh, well, that was crap. But that doesn't, just because one person finds it scary and another doesn't mean it's a bad film.
And also, when this film does pick up and start moving places, it goes like full 10. It really does. There's a couple of scenes where you're like, whoa, okay, out of nowhere, this is all of a sudden really over the top.
0 to 100.
0 to 100, and really loved it. And the other thing about some of the people who probably thought maybe some of the characters made some interesting choices, let's say, if you're Australian, you know this is normal. These are just everyday people doing what they do.
I don't know about that. I wouldn't be touching no dirty
no dirty
hands that would, not me.
But yeah, love the movie.
Yeah.
It's time to move on. What do we got? Next category.
Next category, we have disturbing. So
obviously, we had to do a disturbing category.
Yeah, nice little disturbing film for you to watch this Halloween.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with an obvious choice, Terrifier 2.
Terrifier 2. Now, this is definitely a disturbing movie. Not everyone could even sit through this film. That being said, you wouldn't necessarily find it disturbing.
I don't necessarily find it disturbing. There is a lot worse things that I have seen before, but probably not safe to put on this list, especially if there are children watching. In saying that, Terrifier 2 is not a children's movie whatsoever.
No.
I struggle to find a disturbing movie that I think is actually good, and I feel like Terrifier 2 fits that bill. It runs circles around the first Terrifier and All Hallows Eve. I just think that it's so good. I love the heroine. I love Art the Clown. He's a menace, and I just think it's great.
I think for a lot of scenes that most people would find disturbing, you would probably laugh at, and I think that's why you love it so much.
I don't laugh
specifically.
at that bedroom scene. Even that's drawing the line for me.
Even you found that disturbing?
Everything else is a bit funny, but
Yeah.
that bedroom scene I feel like had everyone shut up. I know I saw this film in cinema and everyone was laughing up until that scene and was like, it was dead silence.
If you didn't know it was coming, then yeah, it's definitely a disturbing movie. We haven't gone for some of the really obvious disturbing movies like Human Centipede or Green Inferno. In fact, I haven't even seen those movies because I'm not super interested in watching
I've seen the Human Centipede, but I will not watch Green Inferno. It's too real for me. I don't want to know about
some of the things you've heard about it.
Even Cannibal Holocaust, keep it
Not
away.
interesting?
I'm not interested. I know enough about it to know that it's not a film that I would enjoy.
Yeah. For me, I've gone with a classic disturbing movie, Hostel.
Yeah, interesting.
Which is obviously a movie that not everybody would put necessarily in disturbing list, but I remember watching it for the first time, and this is a movie which is kind of quite realistic, and what's going on in this film is pretty disturbing. Like, basically, torture tourism, and done in a very realistic way. There's a few certain scenes I've brought up with Zoe a few times, the time where he gets his, ankle cut and he tries to get up and walk away. I was like, oh, the first time watching that, so gross.
Yeah.
It's a disturbing film.
Hostel 2, the scene where she's hanging in the bath and she comes up to her with the sickle, and that scene scarred me for life as a kid, and I probably saw it way too young. But films like that, I don't really have an interest in sitting down and watching. I don't really like people being tortured just for the sake of torture.
I think that's coming from a Saw fan, but I think that's
deserve it.
I think that that's the very definition of disturbing, right? It's like to a point where it's like, I don't really want to. I don't know if I want to watch this. It's kind of just like off-putting, really. It's just gross.
But some people will really enjoy it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm sure there's a million Hostel fans out there. Look, once you've seen it a few times, it's sort of, there's the diminishing effects of it. But certainly for me, I'd put it up there with one of the more disturbing horror movies.
Yeah.
I think it was on purposely trying to be disturbing as well.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those kind of movies.
Well, every time they release a new one of Saw, they just want to know how they can make it worse, right? So.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that leaves us with our final category today.
Our final category is a bit of a fun one.
Yeah.
This will be the hot take movie.
This is the hot take. This is one of our personal picks to watch this Halloween. Which horror movie do you love to watch?
Halloween Ends.
Halloween Ends.
Halloween Ends. And I feel like this is a movie that is going to be very much like Halloween Season of the Witch, where people hated it when it first came out, but people will
Stop bringing up Season of the Witch. It's a terrible film.
It is a terrible film. I'm not saying that I like it, but I'm saying it is now a fan favorite. And I think that as time goes on, Halloween Ends will end up in that ranking as well, where people shat on it, and then all of a sudden it'll be up there with the fan favorite. There is nothing wrong with Halloween Ends. I think that it's stylistically it looks amazing. Character wise, it's so character driven. I understand the gripe of putting Corey in the last film and not having him from the beginning. I get that, but I think that everything in Halloween Ends is great.
Halloween Ends is a great movie. I know you like to bring up the Halloween 3 sort of Season of the Witch comparison. I watched Halloween 3 Season of the Witch many years later, and it's still terrible. I've got to tell you.
It is terrible, but people still say, "Oh, it's
a cult. It's a
classic."
cult movie because it is campy. It's just weird. It's wacky. It's more of a comedy. Halloween Ends. Look. There are a lot of people out there that's certainly going to be like, Halloween Ends. But if you want to be friends with Zoe, you better like the movie.
I love it.
She didn't just love the movie. She saw the movie like 5 times at the cinema and then watched it on repeat when it came out at home.
Yes.
But she is a big Halloween fan in general. It's not just come out of nowhere. The 2018 trilogy was a big deal, I suppose, when it came out.
Absolutely.
And grew up with the Halloween movies as well. So there's a reason why it speaks to her, of course. She's in love with Corey as well in Halloween Ends.
Corey's great.
So it's
Corey and Allison are one of my favorite couples.
Yeah.
in
So
horror.
for anybody who's sort of like, oh, it's just all this Corey and no Michael Myers, she loved that. So
yeah, I didn't mind.
There's a reason behind it.
And it's Michael Myers is the evil. He's not. It's
The
an
shape.
entity. It's the shape.
Yeah.
So whoever wears the mask is fine by me.
Yeah. Yes. Look, I think there's a lot of positives. We can talk about Halloween Ends forever, but there's a lot of positives there for sure. And there's going to be a lot of angry people in the comments for this hot take. That's why it's the hot take category.
I don't mind.
My hot take, I've decided to go with a movie you guys have never heard of. And the film is called The Horde, starring Costas Mandylor.
That really is a hot take.
And this is a movie that we saw recently. And The Horde is a low budget, very low budget movie.
Yep.
Written and starring the main character, who I couldn't even tell you his name off the top of my head. But basically a film that was... Does Paul somebody sounds like something?
Paul something.
And it's basically just a vehicle for somebody who wanted to write a horror movie about himself and just basically
Being a badass.
Yeah, and just like stole a bunch of scenes from different action movies so he could be like Rambo and like come out of the water with a bow and arrow for no reason.
It's very Wrong Turn inspired. There's a lot going on.
He's just stolen from all these different movies, which is fine. I got no problem with that. But it's just an amazing film. If you can get a copy of it, The Horde, and of course it does have everyone's favorite, Mark Hoffman.
Costas Mandylor.
And in this one,
that is the only reason why we watched the film.
He's playing the bad guy.
And let me tell you, I do not agree with Adam's pick at all. I think that the best part of this film is Costas Mandylor, and he is extremely underutilized.
Yes.
It's a fun watch.
It's a fun film.
It's not a good watch.
Every now and then you got to sit down with a bad... I mean, look, there's probably, 90% of horror movies are bad probably, but, it is fun to watch a low-budget, bad horror movie, and this one takes the cake. This is one of the all-time... if you've got, you've got a group of friends and you watch something kind of funny, this is a horror movie to pick up, and it's got Costas Mandylor in it too.
Bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So it keeps everybody entertained. Anyway, that is our hot take. You know what? We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your hot take. I think, tell us your favorite horror movies to watch in Halloween.
I want to know what horror movie you guys liked that everyone hated.
Yeah, hot
That's
take wise, we want to
know.
know because people love and really are passionate about certain horror films. And, it's so much fun when when you love a horror movie that everyone hates, you know? And if you could tell us what that was, that's great, because who knows? We might have to sit down and watch your hot take.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so write those down in the comments, guys. We're going to respond to everybody and see if we can maybe put them on our list, because we're going to be doing this for a while.
Yeah.
And otherwise, guys, we hope you have a great Halloween. We've got a bunch of content for you, and we will see you in the next video.
Happy Halloween, everyone.